Long before the Silk Road, a hidden global economy was already thriving. Ancient trade networks connected continents, moving far more than just goods. This journey uncovers 20 forgotten pathways that exchanged ideas, cultures, and technologies across the world. You will discover the true scale of our interconnected past and how it shaped everything we know today. How did volcanic glass from a Mediterranean island end up in ancient Egypt? And why did tiny shells from the Maldives become money in China and Africa? What does it truly mean to be connected across vast distances? A shard of volcanic glass, carried hundreds of miles from its source, holds a chemical signature as unique as a fingerprint. This is how we know that over 12,000 years ago, Neolithic traders were navigating the open waters of the Mediterranean. Their prized cargo was obsidian from islands like Melos, a material sharper than any stone, essential for crafting superior tools and ceremonial objects. The routes they established formed a web connecting the Aegean to mainland Greece, Anatolia, and beyond, with fragments of this distinctive glass even turning up in ancient Egypt. This was not merely a trade in goods. It was the first highway for ideas, carrying early agricultural knowledge and the seeds of symbolic art across the sea. The courage of these early seafarers, venturing into the unknown in simple vessels, fundamentally reshapes our understanding of the so-called Stone Age. It reveals a world already pulsating with connection, driven by an insatiable need for resources and a shared curiosity that propelled humanity forward. This same driving force was at work in another part of the world, where a very different kind of network emerged from the icy landscapes of the far north. A golden river of fossilized sunlight flowed south from the cold Baltic shores. This was the Amber Road, a network of pathways that for more than 1,000 years carried its precious cargo to the dazzling civilizations of the Mediterranean. The material they traded, Baltic amber, was not just a beautiful stone. It was considered northern gold, treasured for its warm glow and believed to hold mystical powers, capable of protecting its wearer or even healing illness. From the Baltic coast, this golden resin traveled overland and along great rivers, passing through the hands of diverse cultures, including early Celtic and Germanic tribes, on its long journey south. The discovery of distinctive Baltic amber beads within the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun stands as undeniable proof of this route's incredible reach, connecting the misty forests of the north to the sun-baked pyramids. But amber was not the only thing moving along this road. Flowing in the other direction came new ideas in metalworking and artistic styles, proving that even the most luxurious trade was never just about the objects themselves. It was a continuous, slow-motion conversation between entire worlds. If a gem of hardened tree resin could bridge such vast divides, what other substances possessed the power to connect continents? Another answer lies shimmering in the heat of the Arabian desert, where a different kind of precious commodity was creating its own web of routes. The air itself was a form of currency, thick with the sacred scents of frankincense and myrrh. These aromatic resins, harvested from gnarled trees in what is now Oman and Yemen, were so deeply coveted by the empires of Egypt, Greece, and Rome that their value truly rivaled gold. Their primary use was in the spiritual realm, burned in vast quantities in temples and during funeral rites, a fragrant smoke believed to carry prayers to the heavens. To satisfy this insatiable demand, a sophisticated network of caravan trails, known collectively as the Incense route, was painstakingly etched across the vast, unforgiving deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. The success of this enterprise hinged on one crucial adaptation: the domestication of the camel. These resilient creatures, organized into massive caravans, became the freight trains of antiquity, their ability to travel long distances without water making the impossible journey possible. The control of this lucrative trade created immense power, fueling the rise of kingdoms like the Nabateans, who carved their magnificent capital, Petra, directly from the rose-red cliffs of Jordan. The economic drain was so significant that the Roman historian Pliny the Elder openly complained about the immense flow of silver and gold from Rome to Arabia, a testament to the irresistible pull of these luxury goods. Yet, moving alongside the precious resins were even more transformative treasures. Writing systems traveled with the merchants, and advanced techniques for water management, like complex irrigation systems, spread from these sophisticated desert centers, turning barren lands into pockets of green. The incense route stands as a powerful lesson that the human yearning for spiritual connection and sensory pleasure was a driving force capable of building empires and bridging continents. And from the aromatic deserts of Arabia, our journey continues to a network that wove together the vast and varied landscapes of Africa and Asia into a single, interconnected world. Across the vast, sun-scorched sea of sand-moved cities on the move, caravans of thousands of camels that defied the very logic of their environment. This was the trans-Saharan network, a lifeline that for centuries connected the fabled empires of West Africa to the wider world. From the gold-rich lands of Ghana and Mali, this precious metal flowed north, becoming the very bedrock of currency in medieval Europe and the Islamic world. In return came an equally vital treasure from the heart of the desert itself: salt. Mined from ancient deposits, these salt slabs were not just a seasoning but a necessity for survival, preserving food and sustaining life in a harsh climate. The wealth generated by this incredible exchange did more than just fill royal treasuries. It built cities of the mind. The legendary University of Timbuktu, with its vast libraries and scholars debating law and astronomy, stands as a permanent monument to the intellectual currents that flowed along with the gold and salt. This network also became a conduit for faith, facilitating the peaceful spread of Islam into West Africa and creating a shared cultural language that connected the region to North Africa and the Middle East. The Sahara was not a barren void, but a dynamic crossroads, its harshness forging some of history's most resilient and sophisticated connections. If caravans could conquer a desert ocean, what then of the vast, open waters of the Pacific? Our journey continues to a maritime network built not on maps, but on the stars and the songs of navigators. Their voyages were charted not on parchment, but in the patterns of the stars and the subtle currents of the open ocean. The Lapita people, master navigators of the ancient Pacific, embarked on a migration so vast it seems almost mythical. Starting over 3,000 years ago, they set out in elegant outrigger canoes, carrying within them the very future of entire islands. Their journey was not a single expedition but a sustained, deliberate expansion across thousands of kilometers of uncharted sea, from the shores of Papua New Guinea to the distant islands of Samoa. This was the Lapita trade and communication network, and it represents one of humanity's most breathtaking achievements in exploration. The cargo they carried tells the story of a people building a new world from scratch. They transported precious black obsidian for sharp tools, finely crafted adzes made from specific volcanic rock, and delicate shell ornaments that held social meaning. But perhaps their most vital trade goods were the living plants and animals tucked safely in their canoes. Taro, yam, breadfruit, and chickens were not merely supplies, they were a portable ecosystem, the essential ingredients for establishing permanent, thriving communities on every new island they settled. The most recognizable symbol of their widespread culture is their pottery, distinctively decorated with intricate geometric patterns stamped into the clay. Wherever this pottery is found, it acts as an archaeological beacon, marking the presence of a connected Lapita community. This shared style suggests a network where ideas, artistic traditions, and cultural values were exchanged as actively as any physical good. This was more than a trade route, it was the very mechanism for the human settlement of remote Oceania. It demonstrates an almost supernatural understanding of the sea. How did they navigate such immense distances without modern instruments? They read the ocean itself, the swells, the flight paths of birds, and the celestial map of the night sky. This knowledge allowed them to maintain conscious, sustained connections across a vast seascape, weaving isolated islands into a shared social fabric. The ultimate legacy of the Lapita is the peopling of the Pacific itself, a story of connection written not on land, but across the world's greatest ocean. While the Lapita mastered the sea, another civilization was achieving a similar feat of integration, but through the life-giving arteries of mighty rivers. While the Lapita mastered the vast Pacific, another intricate web of sea lanes was weaving together the continents of Asia. Long before the overland Silk Road became a household name, a vibrant maritime network was the true lifeline of early global commerce. This was the Maritime Silk Road of Southeast Asia, a decentralized system of trade that connected the ports of Vietnam and Indonesia with the colossal markets of India, China, and even the distant Roman Empire. Imagine the scene in a harbor like Ok Eo in Vietnam or Baras in Indonesia. The air was thick with the scent of exotic spices like cloves and nutmeg, fragrant sandalwood, and rare resins being loaded onto sturdy wooden ships. Chinese records from the Han Dynasty detail official missions venturing into these southern seas, specifically to acquire such luxury goods. The flow of treasure was not one way. Archaeologists have unearthed Roman glassware and coins at sites across Southeast Asia, silent witnesses to ships that sailed from the other end of the known world. This network thrived not under the command of a single empire, but through a collaborative effort among diverse kingdoms and cultures. Malay sailors, with their advanced knowledge of monsoon winds, might transport goods from Indonesian spice islands to entrepots on the Malay Peninsula, where Indian merchants would then carry them westward. This constant interaction did more than move objects, it moved entire worldviews. It was along these sea routes that Hinduism and Buddhism first sailed into Southeast Asia, taking root and profoundly reshaping the region's cultural landscape. The magnificent temples of Angkor in Cambodia and Borobudur in Indonesia are not just architectural marvels, they are permanent monuments to the ideas that traveled on these trading ships, influencing art, architecture, and the very concept of kingship. This maritime network demonstrates that the most enduring connections are often built on cooperation, not conquest, setting a pattern that will be echoed in another great system of exchange, one that linked two ancient superpowers across a different ocean. A Roman merchant clutching a detailed guide called the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea would have watched for the seasonal shift in the winds. His ship, a sturdy corbetta with a massive sail, was laden with a fortune in gold coins, fine Italian wine, and delicate glassware. His destination was not a nearby province, but the legendary ports of India's Malabar coast. This was the Indo-Roman trade network, a direct maritime superhighway that for centuries linked two of the ancient world's greatest economic powers. The entire enterprise hinged on a brilliant understanding of nature's clock, the monsoon winds. Sailors learned to ride the summer monsoon east to India, and then catch the winter monsoon back to the Red Sea, turning a potentially treacherous year-long voyage into a manageable few months. What drove such a risky and ambitious undertaking? The answer lay in a single pungent spice, black pepper, a commodity so coveted in Rome that it was literally worth its weight in gold. It was more than a seasoning, it was a status symbol, a preservative, and even used as a form of collateral in financial transactions. The demand was so insatiable that Roman historians lamented the constant drain of the empire's silver and gold into India to pay for it. This outflow of precious metal had a profound effect on the other side of the ocean. Southern Indian kingdoms, particularly the Tamil dynasties, grew immensely wealthy. Vast hoards of Roman gold coins have been unearthed across southern India, a silent testament to the sheer scale of this exchange, but the ships carried more than just pepper and gold. They were floating repositories of culture and innovation. Indian ports exported precious gems, ivory, and fine cotton cloth, while receiving not only Roman goods but also new ideas. Some scholars suggest that Indian shipbuilding techniques, which produced larger, more robust vessels capable of surviving the monsoon crossing, may have influenced Mediterranean maritime technology. The flow of thought was not one-way either, with elements of Indian philosophy and religious thought beginning to filter into the Hellenistic world. This network stands as a powerful example of how simple consumer desire, the Roman palate's craving for pepper, could forge and sustain a connection that reshaped economies and cultures across an ocean. And just as a humble spice could move empires, another, even simpler object was creating a global currency in the most unexpected of places. A tiny, glossy shell from the Maldives became the bedrock of empires. The cowrie shell, harvested by the millions from the warm Indian Ocean, evolved into the world's first truly global currency. For over a millennium, these durable, porcelain-like shells were loaded onto ships and transported across vast distances, creating a monetary network that connected continents long before the invention of paper money. In West Africa, they became the primary medium of exchange, used to buy everything from daily goods to paying taxes in powerful states like the Kingdom of Dahomey. Their value was rooted in their scarcity far from the source, their uniform size which made them easy to count, and the near impossibility of counterfeiting them. Meanwhile, in China, these same shells held a deep spiritual significance for centuries, used in royal divination rituals before also being adopted as a form of currency. This created an astonishing economic loop. Shells flowed from the Maldives to fuel the growth of African markets and to fulfill the needs of Asian spiritual and commercial life. This system linked the most isolated village markets in the African interior directly to the tides of the Indian Ocean. It is a profound demonstration that value is not inherent in an object, but is a story we all agree to tell. The cowrie shell network proves that the forces of globalization are not a modern invention, but are woven into the very fabric of our ancient past. And just as a simple shell could be imbued with immense power, another network found its value not in currency, but in the sacred meaning carved into stone. A vibrant green stone held the power of life itself in ancient Mesoamerica. For the Olmecs and the Maya, jade was far more valuable than gold, a sacred substance that embodied the essence of water, maize, and the life force that sustained the world. Its brilliant color was a direct link to the divine, and its possession was the ultimate symbol of royal authority. But this precious stone was incredibly rare, found only in a few isolated sources, most notably the Motagua River Valley in Guatemala. The demand for it created one of the most sophisticated and enduring trade networks of the pre-Columbian world. Rulers needed jade to legitimize their power, and so an intricate web of routes emerged, moving the sacred green stone across thousands of miles of dense jungle and mountainous terrain. The sheer scale of this enterprise is staggering. Long before the Maya, The Olmec civilization demonstrated this logistical prowess by transporting massive basalt boulders over 100 kilometers to create their iconic colossal heads. If they could move mountains of stone for their monuments, orchestrating the flow of jade was a challenge they were perfectly equipped to meet. In Maya society, a king was literally clothed in his connection to the gods through jade. He wore elaborate jade ear spools, heavy necklaces, and intricate mosaics on his belt, each piece proclaiming his right to rule. A royal burial was not complete without a jade bead placed in the mouth of the departed, a final offering to ensure a fruitful journey into the afterlife. But these routes were never just about jade. The same caravans of merchants traveling along established pathways carried other extraordinary goods that defined elite life. They transported cacao beans, which were used as currency and to make a bitter, frothy chocolate drink reserved for nobility. They brought the iridescent green tail feathers of the quetzal bird, which were more precious than gems. And they supplied the sharp black obsidian needed for ritual bloodletting ceremonies and warfare. This network was the circulatory system of Mesoamerican civilization. It connected powerful, independent city-states into a single cultural sphere, sharing not only goods but also artistic styles, religious beliefs, and political ideas. The constant exchange of jade created a shared visual language of power that everyone, from Palenque to Tikal, could understand. The story of the jade routes reveals a profound truth that the human yearning for spiritual meaning and political legitimacy can be one of the most powerful economic engines in history. This same principle, where ideology drives the movement of mountains, was being perfected at the very same time along the spine of the Andes. A highway of stone and ambition was carved directly through the heart of the Andes. This was the Quhapac-Ñan, the royal road of the Inca, a network spanning over 25,000 miles across coastal deserts, vertiginous mountain passes, and dense cloud forests. While the Inca perfected it, this system was built upon ancient pathways first laid by earlier civilizations like the Wari and Tiwanaku, a testament to a long history of connection in the region. This was far more than a simple trade route. It was the central nervous system of the largest empire in the pre-Columbian Americas, a breathtaking instrument of imperial control and communication. Along its length, a corps of highly trained relay runners known as chasques operated. These men, stationed in small posts called tampu, would carry quipus, intricate knotted cords that recorded information across the empire at speeds that could rival a horse. A message could travel from the imperial capital of Cusco to the farthest reaches, a distance of over 1,000 miles, in less than a week. Flanking these roads were thousands of storehouses known as kolkas, strategically placed to stockpile essential supplies. These were not market goods for public trade, but state-controlled reserves of food, textiles, and military equipment, allowing the empire to support its armies, move its labor force, and provide relief in times of hardship. The movement of goods was carefully managed. Staple crops like maize from the lower valleys and thousands of varieties of potatoes from the highlands were transported to feed the empire. Exquisite textiles, a form of wealth and status in Andean culture, moved along the routes, and from the warm waters of the Pacific came spondylus shells, a vibrant red treasure considered sacred and used in rituals to call upon the rain. The true genius of this network was its ability to bind an incredibly diverse and rugged empire into a single, functional unit. It allowed for the redistribution of resources from ecologically rich zones to poorer ones, and facilitated the movement of people, integrating newly conquered territories through a shared infrastructure. The sheer scale of its engineering, with suspension bridges made of woven grass that could support entire armies and stairways cut directly into mountain cliffs, represents one of humanity's greatest organizational achievements. It prompts a fascinating question: how did other ancient empires manage to coordinate such vast exchanges? Deep within a merchant's house in the Anatolian city of Kanish, a secret archive lay buried for millennia. These were not scrolls or papyri, but thousands of clay tablets, inscribed with the sharp, wedge-shaped marks of cuneiform script. They were the detailed records of Assyrian merchants from the distant Mesopotamian city of Ashur, who lived and worked in this foreign land nearly 4,000 years ago. These tablets tell a story far more personal than royal edicts or epic poems. They are invoices, marriage contracts, and deeply personal letters between husbands in Anatolia and their wives back home in Ashur. One such letter from a wife gently chides her merchant husband, writing, "Over here, I am taking good care of your house, but you, over there, who is taking care of you?" This intimate glimpse reveals the human heart beating within one of history's first global economic engines. This was the Mesopotamian trade diaspora, a network not of empires but of family firms. These intrepid merchants established permanent trading colonies along well-established routes, creating enclaves of their home culture in distant lands like Kanish. Their business model was brilliantly simple. They transported luxurious Mesopotamian textiles and, most crucially, tin from the east into Anatolia. In exchange, they loaded their caravans of donkeys with the silver and copper so desperately needed by the rising powers of the Bronze Age. Tin was the magic ingredient that, when alloyed with copper, created bronze, the metal that defined an era. The entire system operated on a foundation of advanced credit and long-distance partnerships built on trust. The tablets detail complex loans, profit-sharing agreements, and even lawsuits, showing a sophisticated commercial law that governed transactions across hundreds of miles. This decentralized, merchant-led network created the first truly international economic system, its tentacles stretching from the Indus Valley and the Persian Gulf all the way to Anatolia and Egypt. It was a web of exchange that moved more than just metal and cloth. It carried writing systems, artistic motifs, and culinary tastes across the ancient world. The success of this diaspora offers a fascinating contrast to the model that would come to dominate a different part of the world, where trade was not a private enterprise, but a direct instrument of imperial power. A royal decree could race across the known world in the time it takes for a single moon to wane. The royal road of the Achaemenid Persian Empire was a ribbon of imperial will stretching over 1,600 miles, from the opulent palaces of Susa to the distant satrapy of Sardis on the Aegean coast. The Greek historian Herodotus immortalized its efficiency, noting that a relay of royal messengers could complete the entire journey in just 7 days, a feat that would have taken an ordinary traveler 3 months. This was not a public highway for merchants, but a dedicated instrument of control for an empire that united dozens of cultures from the Indus River to the Nile. Its true genius lay in the infrastructure that supported this speed. At regular intervals stood way stations with fresh horses and dedicated couriers, ensuring that the king's word never slowed. Imperial intelligence, tax records, and military orders flowed along this artery, binding a vast and diverse realm into a single, manageable entity. The security this system provided, with patrols and safe resting posts, had an unintended but profound consequence. For the first time, caravans could traverse the heart of the empire with a new level of safety and predictability. While trade was not the road's primary purpose, its very existence created a protected corridor that accelerated the movement of goods, people, and ideas. Luxury textiles, precious metals, and artistic influences from Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Anatolia now moved with less risk, fostering a level of economic and cultural integration that the continent would not see again for centuries. The Royal Road stands as a monumental lesson in how the architecture of power, when built with such foresight, can inadvertently weave the fabric of a connected world. This same principle, where a single, powerful state orchestrates the flow of a unique resource, was being perfected far to the south, in the heart of another great civilization. The deserts of Nubia hid a wealth that fueled the very heart of ancient Egypt. This was the Nubian Corridor, a dynamic network that channeled the riches of sub-Saharan Africa northward for thousands of years. The Kingdom of Kush, with its capitals first at Napata and later at the iron-producing powerhouse of Meroe, grew into a formidable power by mastering this trade. Its merchants did not just transport goods, they controlled the supply of gold, ivory, precious ebony wood, and even exotic animals like giraffes and monkeys, all destined for the courts and temples of Egypt and the wider Mediterranean world. The economic pull of these resources was so immense that it repeatedly drew Egyptian pharaohs south on military campaigns, not for conquest of empty land, but to secure direct access to the source of this wealth. This relationship was never a simple one-way street of influence. While Egyptian religion and architectural styles profoundly influenced Kushite culture, the flow of power dramatically reversed in the 8th century before the Common Era. The rulers of Kush marched north, conquering Egypt itself and establishing the 25th dynasty, a line of pharaohs who ruled the Nile from their Nubian homeland. This period, often called the Black Pharaohs, stands as a powerful testament to the corridor's role in a two-way exchange of political and cultural ideas. The Nubian Corridor shatters the outdated notion of an isolated Africa. It positions the continent as an active, indispensable engine of the ancient economy, supplying the luxuries that defined status and power across the known world. This south-to-north flow of a precious metal finds a striking mirror in another ancient network, where a different vital resource traveled in the opposite direction. The stormy Atlantic was a gateway to power, not a barrier. For the civilizations of the Bronze Age Mediterranean, a single metallic element was the key to their very existence: tin. Without it, copper remained soft and useless, but alloyed together, they created bronze, the metal that gave the era its name and forged its weapons, tools, and art. This desperate need propelled sailors from the sunny, sheltered waters of their home sea into the treacherous, gray expanse of the Atlantic, all to reach the fabled Cassiterides, the Tin Islands. Historians believe these legendary islands were the tin-rich regions of Cornwall in Britain and the northwestern coast of Spain. The voyage was a monumental undertaking, a testament to the lengths humanity will go to secure a vital resource. The true architects of this Atlantic tin route were the Phoenicians, master seafarers whose sturdy ships and unparalleled navigational skills made them the indispensable middlemen of the ancient world. They did not simply sail to these remote shores, they embedded themselves, establishing fortified trading posts and ports along the Atlantic coast to secure a steady flow of the precious metal. The impact of this trade rippled through both worlds. For the tribal societies of Atlantic Europe, the arrival of Mediterranean merchants was a transformative event. In exchange for their raw tin, they received luxury goods like fine wine, ornate pottery, and exquisite gold jewelry, which stimulated local economies and elevated the status of chieftains who controlled the mines. This was not a one-sided extraction, but a genuine cultural exchange. Artistic styles and new technologies in metalworking began to cross-pollinate, leaving a distinct mark on the local archaeological record. The very presence of these sophisticated foreign ships and their goods would have reshaped the worldview of these Atlantic communities, connecting them to a global economic network they never knew existed. Meanwhile, back in the bustling workshops of the Eastern Mediterranean, The steady supply of tin ensured the continued rise of empires. Control over this supply chain meant unparalleled economic and military advantage, fueling the growth of powers from Mycenaean Greece to the Phoenician city-states themselves. The Atlantic tin trade stands as a brilliant example of how a practical necessity can drive human exploration, connecting vastly different cultures and proving that even in the Bronze Age, no continent was truly an island. This same story of human adaptation and connection in the face of a harsh environment was unfolding at the very same time in the frozen landscapes of the far north. A world of ice and silence held a trade network as vast as any desert caravan route. Across the frozen shores of the North American Arctic, two distinct cultures, the earlier Dorset people and the later Thule ancestors of the modern Inuit, engaged in an exchange that spanned continents. Remarkably, this often occurred through a form of silent trade, where goods were left at designated places for others to find and replace with their own offerings, minimizing direct contact between different groups. The evidence for this incredible network lies in the objects themselves. Archaeologists have found tools crafted from meteoritic iron from Greenland and native copper from Alaska, each discovered thousands of miles from their original sources. These materials were not just curiosities, they were essential for survival. A harpoon tip made from a sliver of hard, extraterrestrial iron could mean the difference between a successful hunt and starvation. The flow of goods was constant and vital. Valuable walrus ivory, warm Arctic furs, and blocks of soapstone, carved into the lamps that provided light and heat in the long polar night, moved along routes traversed by dog sled and the versatile Umiak skin boat. This was more than a simple barter system, it was a lifeline. The exchange also spread revolutionary technologies, with new, more efficient harpoon designs traveling from one community to the next, dramatically improving the ability to hunt marine mammals. This Arctic network stands as a powerful testament to a profound truth, that trade is a fundamental human adaptation. Even in the most sparsely populated and environmentally challenging regions on Earth, the innate drive to connect, to share resources, and to innovate created a web of interdependence that allowed cultures not just to survive but to thrive. From the frozen, interconnected north, our journey moves to the vast, open grasslands of the steppes, where a different kind of network flourished on horseback. The vast Eurasian steppe was a rolling sea of grass, a natural superhighway for the nomadic peoples who called it home. For thousands of years, confederations like the Scythians moved freely across this open landscape, creating a fluid zone of interaction that connected the workshops of China to the ports of the Black Sea. This was not a single defined road, but a sprawling network of movement and exchange, where goods, ideas, and even people flowed with a remarkable freedom. The Scythians were the masters of this domain, legendary horsemen and archers who acted as the essential intermediaries between the great settled civilizations. In their elaborate burial mounds, known as kurgans, archaeologists have uncovered a stunning testament to this role. Alongside their own distinctive golden stags and elaborate weaponry lie bolts of Chinese silk and delicate lacquerware, placed right next to exquisite Greek goldwork and ornate vessels that once held fine wine. These artifacts tell a story of a connected world long before the Silk Road became a formal route. The steppe was a crucible of cultural fusion, where artistic styles from east and west blended to create entirely new forms of expression. A Scythian gold pectoral might feature a distinctly Greek sense of naturalism in its animal figures, yet the subject matter and the swirling composition are purely of the steppe. This network was also a primary channel for the transmission of revolutionary technologies. The chariot, and later the domesticated horse itself, spread westward along these grassy corridors, forever changing the nature of warfare and transportation across the ancient world. The story of the steppe reminds us that some of history's most significant connections happened not within the walls of cities, but in the dynamic spaces between them, forged by cultures on the move. This legacy of blending and adaptation finds a powerful echo in another great network, one that thrived in the dense river valleys of South Asia. The scent of cinnamon on the wind could guide a ship to its fortune. This was the Indian Ocean spice trade, a maritime world so vast and interconnected it formed the true economic heart of the Old World for more than a millennium. It was a multi-directional network, a grand exchange linking the gold mines of East Africa to the spice gardens of Southeast Asia, all choreographed by the predictable rhythm of the monsoon winds. Twice a year, these powerful seasonal winds reversed direction, creating a natural maritime highway. Sailors from Arabia would ride the summer monsoon east to India, while traders from the subcontinent would catch the winter monsoon west to Africa, their ships laden with the very aromas of wealth. In the bustling Swahili city-states like Kilwa and Mogadishu, the air was thick with the smells of exported ivory, rare tropical timber, and gold, all bound for markets in India and beyond. In return, these African ports received fine cotton textiles and intricate glass beads, which were not merely ornaments but a form of stored value and social currency. The ports themselves became dazzlingly cosmopolitan. A merchant from Persia might share a meal with a shipmaster from Gujarat, while a trader from the Malabar coast negotiated with a local Swahili official, all using a blend of languages and a common understanding of commerce. This was not a system built by empires, but by merchants and sailors, a decentralized network that thrived on cooperation and mutual benefit. It fostered a unique maritime culture where shared laws of the sea and a spirit of exchange often outweighed political or religious differences. This peaceful, sustained interaction created a level of intercultural fluency that would later be profoundly disrupted by the arrival of European powers with their guns and monopolistic companies. The sheer scale and longevity of this network stands as a powerful testament to what humanity can achieve through trade built on understanding rather than conquest. While the Indian Ocean connected the Old World, a different kind of maritime network was weaving together the islands and coasts of another great ocean, creating a world of its own. The gentle lapping of waves against a wooden canoe marks the rhythm of a world in motion. Long before European sails appeared on the horizon, the Caribbean was a bustling crossroads, its islands connected by an intricate web of maritime routes. This was the Pre-Columbian Caribbean interaction sphere, a network where the Taino and Carib peoples, among many others, navigated the sea not as a barrier but as their central highway. Their vessels were impressive, large canoes skillfully carved from massive trees, capable of carrying dozens of people across open water. These were the freighters of their world, and their cargo tells a story of a sophisticated society. Practicality and spirituality sailed together. From the island of Antigua came a unique, high-quality stone, carefully shaped into essential tools and traded from island to island. But alongside these utilitarian goods traveled ceremonial objects, small carvings that held deep religious meaning, and even living plants and animals, all vital for establishing new communities and maintaining cultural continuity. This constant movement of people and goods wove the archipelago into a single, interconnected social fabric. Cultural practices, from specific burial rites to artistic styles, spread from one island to the next. Linguistic elements blended, creating shared words and concepts that facilitated communication across vast distances. This system was not driven by profit in a modern sense, but by the ancient principles of reciprocity and social alliance. A chief might send a canoe laden with finely crafted gifts to a leader on a neighboring island, solidifying a political relationship and ensuring mutual support in times of hardship, such as after a devastating hurricane. This network was the very lifeblood of social cohesion and survival in an unpredictable island environment. For a long time, historians underestimated the scale of this interaction. But recent archaeological discoveries have revealed something astonishing. The reach of these canoe voyages extended far beyond the Caribbean islands themselves. Distinctive artifacts and chemical signatures in pottery point to sustained connections with the mainland of South America, the ancestral homeland from which these cultures originally sprang. This evidence paints a picture of a vibrant, self-sufficient world in the Americas, a complex web of connection that flourished for centuries entirely independent of Europe, Asia, or Africa. It is a powerful testament to the universal human drive to reach out, to trade, and to build community, a story of connection whose full richness we are only just beginning to appreciate. Our journey now turns to theories and evidence of connections that may have spanned the globe, linking the ancient old world with the new in ways that continue to spark curiosity and debate. A tiny terracotta head, unearthed beneath the soil of Mexico, bears the unmistakable features of a Roman portrait. For decades, this singular artifact has ignited one of history's most contentious debates. Could it be proof of fleeting, accidental contact between the hemispheres, a ship lost at sea that somehow made landfall in the Americas centuries before Columbus? This is the realm of transoceanic contact hypotheses, a field of tantalizing possibilities and fierce scholarly debate. The evidence is often a collection of scattered breadcrumbs, each one open to multiple interpretations. Take the sweet potato, a staple crop native to South America. How did it become established across Polynesia long before European explorers arrived? The linguistic clue is striking, with similar words for the vegetable found in both Quechua, the language of the Andes, and various Polynesian tongues. This has led to a compelling, though not universally accepted, theory that Polynesian voyagers, the greatest navigators of the ancient world, made landfall on the coast of South America. The exchange, if it occurred, may not have been one-sided. Some research suggests that the chicken, an animal of Asian origin, was present in Chile before the Spanish arrived, potentially carried across the Pacific on those same legendary outrigger canoes. These theories force us to look at the ancient world with new eyes. Could similarities in pyramid construction, seen in both Egypt and Mesoamerica, be mere coincidence, a case of different cultures arriving at similar architectural solutions to meet common human needs for grand monuments? Or do they hint at a deeper, more mysterious thread of connection? The debate itself is perhaps more valuable than any single conclusion, for it challenges the rigid boundaries we often impose on the past. It asks us to consider the ocean not as an impenetrable wall, but as a vast, challenging highway that a few intrepid sailors might have crossed. While the evidence remains circumstantial and hotly contested, exploring these ideas expands our sense of the possible. It suggests that the tapestry of ancient connection was even more complex and far-reaching than we ever imagined, woven with threads of chance, incredible human skill, and the unpredictable currents of the sea. This speculative journey into what might have been brings us back to a material whose journey we can trace with certainty, a substance that literally held the ancient world together. A brilliant blue stone, the color of a desert sky after rain, held a power that resonated across an entire continent. This was the turquoise trade of the Americas, a vibrant network that connected the arid canyons of the Southwest to the lush plazas of Mesoamerica and the high peaks of the Andes. For cultures like the ancestral Pueblones and the Hohokam, turquoise was far more than a decorative gem. It was a sacred substance, a piece of the heavens brought to earth, and its control meant spiritual and political influence. These societies became the master organizers of a continental exchange, managing the flow of this precious stone from major mines in places like Cerrillos, New Mexico, one of the largest prehistoric turquoise sources in North America. The journey of a single bead from a mine to a distant city was an epic undertaking, passed from hand to hand along well-established routes that crossed deserts and mountains. The ultimate destination for much of this wealth was Choco Canyon, a phenomenal ceremonial center in the heart of the Southwest. Here, in massive great houses like Pueblo Bonito, artisans transformed raw turquoise into a staggering number of artifacts. They crafted intricate pendants, delicate beads by the tens of thousands, and elaborate mosaics that adorned ritual objects. But the story of Choco does not end with turquoise. Within those same rooms, archaeologists have uncovered heaps of shells harvested from the Pacific Ocean and macaw feathers brilliantly colored from the rainforests of Central America. This single site is a microcosm of a continent in conversation, a place where the treasures of the coast, the jungle, and the desert were all brought together. Far to the south, the demand for this distinctive blue stone was just as intense. The Maya valued it for magnificent masks and ornate headdresses, inlaying it alongside jade to create a stunning contrast of green and blue. For the Aztecs, turquoise held a place of supreme honor. They gave it a poetic name, Xiuhtli, which also meant grass and the year, linking it to concepts of renewal and life itself. In their capital of Tenochtitlan, master craftsmen created breathtaking mosaics using thousands of individually cut pieces of turquoise, fashioning them into fearsome ritual masks and ceremonial shields that were offered to the gods. The material was so revered that the Aztec emperor was known by the title Lord of Turquoise. This network, moving a single, spiritually charged commodity across thousands of miles, proves decisively that North America was never an isolated vacuum. It was an active, essential part of an interregional system where prestige goods flowed to fulfill deep cultural and ritual needs. The story of turquoise, from a desert mine to a royal offering, serves as a perfect final piece of evidence. It brings our journey full circle, reminding us that from the volcanic glass of the Mediterranean to the sacred stones of the Americas, the ancient world was always profoundly connected. Our journey across these 20 ancient pathways reveals a world humming with conversation long before we ever gave it a name. From the volcanic glass of the Mediterranean to the sacred turquoise of the Americas, we have traced the outlines of a global tapestry woven not with thread, but with human curiosity and need. These networks were the original World Wide Web, transmitting far more than just spices, stones, and metals. They carried the very foundations of civilization, the blueprints for new technologies, the seeds of faiths that would span the globe, and the artistic styles that would define cultures for centuries. This intricate web of exchange proves that the impulse to connect, to trade, and to share knowledge is a deep-seated human trait, a force that has shaped our collective story from the very beginning. The next time you sprinkle pepper on a meal or admire a piece of polished stone jewelry, pause for a moment. Consider the epic journey it represents, a story spanning millennia and continents, passed from hand to hand by merchants, sailors, and nomads who built the bridges of our ancient world. If this exploration of our interconnected past resonated with you, we would be honored to have you join our community. Subscribe for more journeys into the mysteries of history, and we would love to hear from you which of these ancient networks amazed you the most. Share your thoughts in the comments below.